Hi, this is Abby Linville, and this is part 2 of my Module 12 case study for EDL 852. So the next option that I would present is that you could bring in an outside consultant. The outside consultant would then work with the visioning and planning committee to kind of define what is a school philosophy, mission, and vision, and to help create a common language around that and talk to them about how that process usually takes place. And they could also talk to them about what does an advisory committee look like? How is that supposed to help serve a school? What does a good collaborative team look like? So it would kind of create that common language. It would put everybody on the same page. You would have the same viewpoint over collaboration. What does that mean and what does it look like? Um, those are some really strong pros. The cons of it, however, are the committee could be insulted by even having this idea come up because they could feel like maybe then Principal Potter doesn't believe that they know what collaboration is. It also could be costly, and it seems like, based off of the community's feedback, that they didn't want to build a new school because of the cost. That is something that needs to be highly considered, is how are we spending our money? And it would take more time, which is something that the committee also doesn't have a lot of extra time at this point. The fourth option would be for Principal Potter to complete a modified process for creating the mission and vision, coming up with a new process that would be able to find a compromise between her viewpoints and the viewpoints of the committee members as well. So that would allow an opportunity to hold up the values and priorities of both sides. It would be nice for having growth in the future. So if you compromise this time, then in the future they'll be able to work with you maybe a little bit more. You have more of that mutual respect built, since their relationship between Principal Potter and the committee is new. And it also still provides Principal Potter with an opportunity to reach out to the community and get some feedback from them as well. The cons are that it's going to take a little bit of time. And it could be that the committee would disagree with that modified version as well. So knowing that and going through those four options, I can immediately remove option 2. I think that relationships matter a lot, especially when you're working in a small rural community and everyone knows each other. You want to help preserve your relationship with those who are viewed as leaders in the community. And I think that option 2 would really hurt the relationship between the committee members and the principal. And I think that would definitely be something that would be talked about in the community, and then that would have a direct effect on the school. So option 2 would be off the table. Then we would look at option 1. So option 1 is asking the principal to compromise her values and go against what her values and beliefs are and what she views as best practices. So option 1 to me would be a hard one to continue to go with and have her create that mission independently when she feels strongly that that's not what's best. Options 3 and 4 are the only two left. 3 is not cost or time effective, but it does provide that common language that could help close the gap between the beliefs of the committee members and the school principal. Option 4 is a good compromise, and it allows the principal to still use her values and beliefs, but also adjust to meet the needs of what the group's viewpoints are as well. So that could end up being a happy medium for all. So based off of those choices and weighing those pros and cons, the choice that I would go with is to complete a modified process for creating the philosophy, mission, and vision statements. The reason for this is that the principal could still in her process, create a space to allow for community involvement and to get information back from them. She could create a way to survey the community to get their values and priorities, which would create some data for her to go off of. It would really help build that trust and respect with the visioning and planning committee members, that she is respecting the rules of that committee and that they made a consensus, they made a democratic decision, they voted on it, and that she is following what she set forth in that committee and following that process. And it still gives her an opportunity to go out into the community and get their feedback so that her values are respected too. So now it's time for the implementation of this plan. So the first step that the principal would need to take is she needs to communicate the plan to the superintendent. It's always good to get ahead of things and keep the superintendent in the loop. I'm sure that if the committee members have talked to one board member, that board member maybe mentioned to somebody else. And there's also parents on that committee that may have said something to other parents in the community. So it's always good to keep the superintendent informed of the situation. And if you're changing up your process that you might have originally communicated, you should communicate that to the superintendent as well. I think one of the major breakdowns in how this situation came to be is there was no definition in the roles and responsibilities of the community members or the people on the committee and what their role and responsibility would be in the school community. And so that would be the next step, is I would talk to the committee about defining the roles and responsibilities, not just for them as committee members, but also what role do we believe that the community members are playing in our district as well and in our school. So that would be the next step. The next thing I would do is I would develop a survey that I could send out to all community stakeholders, students, business owners, people who are living in the community that have school-age children, and people living in the community who do not have school-age children. And I would look to see what would they like to see as a part of the philosophy, mission, and vision for the middle school. After that, after I developed the survey, I would bring the survey to the committee, the visioning and planning committee, to get their feedback on it, and I would explain what the modified process would look like to them. Hoping that they could support it and explaining my reasoning why I think I need to go and get that survey from them, and also explaining the next steps that I'm going to describe below to them as well. If for some reason they don't agree with this process, then I would go back to exploring my options again, and I would probably look at bringing in someone to talk to them about what does a collaborative process look like, so we could kind of see and get on the same page on viewpoints. But I'm hoping that by defining those roles and responsibilities before getting to showing them the survey and going through the modified process, that will kind of help alleviate some issues as well. So after the committee approves the process, looks at the survey, gives their feedback, I would send out the survey to all community stakeholders. After the survey is completed, I would analyze the data collected, and then I would present this data and share it with the committee. So after the committee looks at the data, shares their thoughts and feedback, I would go back and I would create 3 drafts of the philosophy, mission, and vision. I would then take those drafts that I created using that data, and I would take those drafts and present it to the committee members for feedback. As they look at the 3 drafts, I'm still getting their values and their input. They're just not part of the drafting of it, but they're part of giving me the feedback and editing it. So I'm still getting that outside value and input, but they're not having to actually write it themselves. So it's that healthy compromise. So taking their feedback, I would adjust the drafts as needed based on that feedback. Bring them back to the committee again for final approval. I would then take it to the school staff, so the middle school teachers who have been hired to go teach in this building the next year, and get their feedback, because they're the ones that are going to be implementing this in the building. So I need them to be in the know of what we're looking at, and I want to hear what it's their school too, what they would like the school philosophy and mission to look like too, and get a little feedback on it. After making adjustments from their feedback, I would take it back to the committee, show them that last draft, make adjustments as needed again, and then present the final draft to the committee, and then take it after the final draft is approved by them. I would then take the final draft to the board for approval. I truly think that this is the best way to compromise and meet the needs of both parties, of the principal and the school committee, and make sure that you're getting a solid philosophy, mission, and vision that meets the needs of all community stakeholders that are involved. In completing this assignment, it definitely pointed out the importance of getting to know the community you're working in and what their values and beliefs are. I also feel like part of the issue that kind of led to the problem that was a part of this case study was that the committee and the school principal didn't clearly define what their roles and responsibilities would be. The principal came in and told them, but you never really heard from the committee themselves how they viewed their role in the school and what they thought would be their role on the advisory committee and what they viewed their responsibilities as. And I feel like if you are leading a committee or you're leading a school or an initiative, you really need to make sure that you're setting some clear, defined roles and responsibilities that everybody's on board with and agrees with. I also think when you're starting a big initiative or creating a mind shift, you have to create a relationship with the people that you're working with so that you get to know their values and belief, and it changes your approach and the way that you are going to start to get them to wrap their minds around going through a big change. And I think the principal hadn't yet built that relationship with them, and that was part of the problem that led to it as well. I also think that this assignment reminded me that sometimes as a leader, you have really great ideas, but you're going to face some pushback and challenges, and you're going to have to adjust those ideas and know that sometimes you have to start small so that one day you can grow that initiative bigger and bigger, and that's okay that you might have to start with a baby step because you're going to eventually get there and continue to grow over time. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I greatly appreciate it.